On the topic of traditional masculine and feminine roles, Jaguar Hart is a controversial voice.
From what I've seen, most feminists hate mothers. They diminish that role big time. There is nothing more sacred and important than raising a child, in my opinion.
But this is not about 1950s housewives. Jaguar Hart is unafraid to be a public voice for healthy masculinity.
Australia's rife with teardown culture. Tear down men, tear down masculinity, tear down traditional relationships, tear down mothers.
For honouring, protecting and healing femininity, and for building strong, lasting connections between the two.
Lift people up. You know, all boats rise with the tide. I don't know why we're not celebrating people.
So we can create a future where men and women rise together. Now join me in welcoming Jaguar Hart. Wow, Kashia, how great is the quality of your new podcast, Return to Wisdom? Oh, mate, I know. I have been recording at Byron Bay's premium content and podcast recording studio, Pod Byron. They are epic. It's new, it's fresh, it's legit, as you can see. If you want to upskill your brand, if you want to create a course online, this is the place to do it. Jump on at podbyron.com and be sure to check the show notes for a sneaky little discount on your first session. Pod Byron is where it's at. You! Before we get into today's show, I firstly want to thank you for being here. It is because you tune in each week that I'm able to continue on, and I really appreciate your support. Secondly, if you enjoy the content, please head on over to the homepage of the show. Hit subscribe, like, share, and please review the channel. It would mean the world. This is a small way you can contribute to better guests and greater conversations. You're listening to Return to Wisdom with Kashia. Welcome everyone to Return to Wisdom. I am in the studio today with Jaguar Hart. Jag is joining me. We're going to discuss a few topics that I guess we've brushed over, but I think today we'll mainly stick to men's health and like a man's role within society, within relationship, etc. Welcome, Jag.
Thank you. Good to be here.
I was wondering, are you the Australian Andrew Tate?
That is provocative. It is provocative. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like this is where the inability to critically think and actually examine someone's work comes into it through the social media landscape. And I'm nothing like him. And I don't support him at all. I think he's a terrible representation of masculinity. But he's what got put there because of his controversial opinion. I actually think he's been placed there. I think he's part of a necessary attack on masculinity. And I think he's the perfect proponent for the toxicity that is rampant in our society or is being called out. And I don't associate with him. I don't even agree with a lot of what he says. Now, there are stoic tenets that he's taken into his work, which is what got him into a public sphere in the first place, amongst some other controversial stuff. And it's not his original thought. Be the protector, be strong, there's nothing new. There's no original thought there. But I think he represented a confirmation as opposed to an absence of male role model. And I think he's been pushed there by, let's say, forces behind the scenes. It's a bit conspiratorial, but I also think that he's a terrible example of a man. He's terrible. Yeah, he's fit, strong, can fight, great, whatever. But his psychology is disgusting. It's absolutely atrocious. And simply because I stand for traditional masculinity of the protector-provider role, people without moving into insult, because I really don't like insult, but people aren't intelligent enough to actually go, oh, what's this guy about? They take snippets, and we were just talking about Laura Henshaw off that. She took a snippet of one of my reels where I said, what was it? Leading a woman is about reduction of choice. She's, oh, this is intensely misogynistic. Immediately after that, I said, now, this isn't about reduction of choice, about controlling her, but rather taking on the responsibility that she doesn't have to so you can help her. You know, this is the kind of bullshit that gets thrown at me by women like that I don't know if she did it personally. I think it's her network listener because they have like Abby Chatfield and I think Clementine's
they've got the
on
good
there.
ones, don't
Yeah,
they?
they've got all the good ones. So it's just political. It's just political. And I hate politics. I can't stand it. This is why I never comment on politics. I think if you're still buying into the political game, you cannot critically think. You're not a smart person and you're operating from a point of giving over your power. Andrew Tate's political. It's a political force that people have put him there. You don't get that famous unless there's something behind the scenes pushing that, you know? And so to answer your question, absolutely not. I detest Andrew Tate. I love women. I take care of my partner very well. She takes care of me very well. I'm a stand for cohesion between the two groups. And I think that natural masculine and feminine dynamics should be honored. You know, people like Laura Henshaw and other people on that side, they say, oh, we want choice, we want equality. But they say that traditional masculinity is toxic. That's not equality. That's not choice. That's saying it's only choice and equality if you listen and do what we say. That's the very thing that they say they stand against. Now, I'm sure Laura is probably a really nice person in real life. I don't know her, and I'm not going to soundbite her down to one small thing that she says. But there's a pretty common theme that she hates men, and she's not willing to budge on that opinion. She just did a reel the other day taking one snippet from this 26-year-old who I have good friends that know him, who does amazing work with guys, and she's just gone after him. You know, and there's this tear down culture. If your message is strong enough, you don't need to tear people down. So I'd ask her to start considering her message. If she wants to talk to women and support them. Why do you have to tear down men while you're doing it?
Something that's really interesting that I actually feel doesn't get spoken about enough is that the same women who are tearing down men actually also tear down mothers.
Yeah, they do.
And it's insane to see, actually. And speaking of Andrew Tate, I did listen, I kind of hate listen to a podcast that he was on with Bonnie Blue. Mm-hmm. They were both being interviewed. So if you want to talk about some toxic...
Atrocious.
Oh, it's insanity, great entertainment value. But what they had in common was that they hated mothers. So not so much women, but women who want to take on the mother role and I guess do that solely while they are mothers.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of negativity towards it, or at the very best, it's like a a push to the side. So I've found that really interesting, and I think that's where, I mean, a lot of my audience are mothers and they feel that as well. And there are a lot of stay-at-home mothers and homeschooling mothers, and they feel this energy. No one even has to say it. You feel this like, oh, you're just a mum.
Yeah. Just a mum.
Yeah. And if you want to do that, that's so fine. But yeah, you're just a mum.
And I think C.S. Lewis said it the best. He said, all roles exist to support the one most important true role, which is the homemaker, which is the mother. And I fully agree with that. The thing about, and I think we'd have maybe similar views around mothers and relationship styles, that if you want that, great. If you don't and you want to be in the space of the career boss babe, go for it. I don't care if that's what you want to do, but that side is so hell-bent on tearing our side down. And really the way that I see it is because they just want, their claim to sit in that space isn't strong enough. And so they have to tear down other people while doing it. From what I've seen, most feminists hate mothers. They diminish that role big time. There is nothing more sacred and important than raising a child, in my opinion. And mothers should get 100% support. And this is where Andrew Tate's disgusting like that. And Bonnie Blue, I mean, he did have a good point. I only saw one clip where he said, you're the perfect end product of feminism. Do what you want. Yeah. And he's not wrong.
It was actually a sickening realization when he said that, and you're like, you can't argue that, unfortunately. Yeah.
It's usually the ones that are crying for equality the most that want it the least. So look, like I said, and I really want to express this point, I don't know Laura personally. I'm sure if I just sat down with her in a cafe and we had a normal conversation, she'd probably be very inspiring. I think her and I don't know what her business partner's name is. They've achieved a lot of great things. Why don't you sit and celebrate your successes instead of focusing on this negative teardown culture? And, you know, people get away with tearing other people down in our society. I feel like it's going to snap back pretty hard. Some influencer is going to make a video about someone that doesn't like it, and it's just going to cause absolute shit, and there's no consequences. The people that usually engage in teardown culture have been bullied growing up, so now they become the bully with no consequences because they can hide behind an account or anonymity, or even if they show themselves online, there's a separation of distance, which if you're doing that in real life, you wouldn't get away with the people that you're tearing down. You wouldn't get away with it. And I think I'm not for censorship, but I'm for regulation of things. I think this teardown culture, again, I always say, if your message is strong enough, you don't need to tear people down. You can support them and lift them up. And Australia's rife with teardown culture. Tear down men, tear down masculinity, tear down traditional relationships, tear down mothers. Unless you're getting in line and in lockstep with these other people, and I'm not going to say the political motivation, but unless you're in line with them, you're out.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Couldn't have summarized it better myself.
Yeah.
I actually, I have a unique, maybe not so unique, actually probably not unique at all, perspective on this, because I've definitely been in the position of where Laura and her business partner are. And also I don't know Laura, I only know what I've seen online and what was circulating a few months ago. But 100%, like before you have kids, yeah, like go girls, girl power, girl boss, like all of that it's awesome. And my my husband and I, but partner at the time, we did everything 50-50 and it was great. We could bring in the money together and we could do all the things around the house together. And where it falls apart is motherhood. And I think that's why motherhood is, like, whether it's conscious or not, it is put down and diminished because like once you hit motherhood, this, like, all of feminism kind of falls apart. If you want to do all of it, if you want to be a single mom or a single mom by choice, it's not easy. And I know women doing it and they're crushing it and they're doing absolutely the best they can and they're running themselves into the ground. So it's very interesting. I mean, my perspective, and I'm sure a lot of my listeners' perspectives altered somewhat once they hit motherhood, and especially because my audience is quite health conscious. When you're looking at circadian rhythms and breastfeeding and co-sleeping and the best thing for pregnancy, like all of this is very heavily supported by traditional gender roles. Yeah. So yeah, and I guess this is where the breakdown kind of comes. But before we go into that, I did recently read a book by Patricia Allen. She speaks in it about masculine and feminine energies, not so much traditional roles, but within a relationship, how the polarity, and I'm absolutely, oh my God, paraphrasing here, that men and women, like one person needs to be more masculine energy, one person needs to be more feminine energy for like that polarity and cohesiveness to be achieved. And she talks about motherhood being a very masculine energy because of the self-sacrifice that's required in order to raise thriving children. And I'd never heard anyone say that before. I mean, a lot of stuff you hear online is all about softening into motherhood and being really feminine, and this is where motherhood's coming from. But when she said, actually, it's a really masculine energy, I resonated with that. I'm like, oh yeah, it's actually a really hardcore state of being. And then she talks about if you continue to play the mothering role, and you're always a mother once you have a child, but her mothering is like that very strong structure that you hold for your children up until 5. If you continue with that, you start to inhibit your children's growth. And I know you talk about the devouring mother and individuation, and I would love for you to take over from there and explain, I guess that mother role and how that can be detrimental past a certain age.
So to preface, I'm not a parent, so I don't want to diminish or just speak intellectually about the role of what it takes to be a parent. So that's the first thing. I can only look at what I've studied, analysed, and growing up with a very cruel, very vicious, devouring mother. And I think relative to that, this is why the child will usually, especially the boy, seek masculine programming around 5 to 7. This happened in tribes, if you separated from the mother. And that was a really healthy thing. We don't have rites of passage anymore. And the mother can not see the ones that do this, which I also understand. There must be such a strong bond between the mother and child, and you'd be better equipped to speak to that than I ever will. I can never speak about it. And I think the healthy thing is allowing the child to be itself. I'm looking into this a lot because we're going to have children soon, and I think it's important to understand what we're heading into from a point of healthy psychology. Also, what isn't healthy as well. I'm very, very well versed in the devouring mother construct because I grew up with one. I know what that's like. They're usually very narcissistic. And sometimes the intention is good, but if you can't separate the intention from your accountability, you will ruin your child's potential. You'll devour it. That's the point, is they devour the child's potential. Now, with the devouring mother constructs, there's so much of it that happens to boys as well. And if the mother's narcissistic, deeply narcissistic, they will continue to try to make sure the child doesn't separate. So you'll see this in families where they have the constructs of the golden child, the black sheep, the lost child, and the enabler. And I have 3 siblings, so there are 4 of us, and I was the black sheep. So the black sheep falls into defiance because they get all the negative projections from the narcissistic devouring mother. The golden child gets all the positive projections, so they move into compliance. So my older brother was the golden child, I was the black sheep. We've never had an issue in our life, him and I, because we're the same person designed by our mother. So the mother will fracture the child's identity and break them and rob the innocence of the child to suit her needs so they don't leave. That's why she does it. So my twin brother was the lost child, so he was in the background behind me because I took up a lot of space because I was a black sheep. At school, he was just known as my brother because I was very rebellious and defiant because I'd constantly fight my mother. And then my sister was the enabler who continually tries to get love from my parents, or parent now because my father's dead, continually try to get it in order to be validated, but she'll never get it because the golden child gets it because my mother selected him. So none of us were these roles inherently, but we were convinced that that's who we were by her, so we wouldn't be able to hold her responsible for it. Now, I'm the only one that's split out of that system, and that's where I individuated, which is to become undivided internally. It's a Jungian term that people can research if they want, and you have to start to split from the mother and become opposite to her. And boys need to do that. They need to become gender opposite to her. There's a great book if you want to understand the basics of it, King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. Robert Glover, I think, wrote it. And it says in the book, I'm paraphrasing, I could be verbatim, I can't remember, the boy needs to cut the apron strings of the mother and go with the father. And this is in history, in psychology, and it's throughout time. We've had rites of passage. The protector provider role has existed cross era, cross generation, tribal, cross era, cross everything. It's in our biology. And an interesting point that you made, mothers are put down by certain people when they adopt certain masculine traits. So they become more masculine and they put down masculinity. So it's anything to oppose their sort of tyrannical concept, which they're all about conquer and domination, which is toxic masculine. So they embody the very things that they then claim is toxic opposing that. So they haven't gone anywhere for the most part. There's been no psychological evolution or maturation into adulthood, I guess you could say. It's just like a lot of people running around with issues and axes to grind because they're immature. And this isn't, I think, and I would probably say we're on the same page, we're not talking about equal rights. That's not what we're talking about. And the issue that I have with it is now a lot of the feminists just use that term to hate men. It's not about equal rights. I don't even understand why women didn't have equal rights from a logical perspective anyway. Yeah. And we have equal rights now. So how is that argument still valid? It's really not. Mm-hmm. And so it's just become an extension to just add to the list to take more away from men. That's the way that I see it happening.
Yeah, no. And I mean, if you start looking at the statistics, which no one actually wants to look at, women are doing or performing a lot better in, oh my God, university
Yep.
and in workplace. And
They're making more than
yes,
men under
the gender
30.
gap is now, the gender wage gap is now the opposite.
The opposite way, yeah.
The opposite way. So, but no, those kind of, that kind of information doesn't help anyone's case. So we'll just not talk about that.
Let's not get into facts and statistics. We don't want to create an accurate argument or a claim.
No.
They often do is they attack the character, not the claim. Most people will just go after the character.
Yeah.
So they'll go, you're toxic, you're bitter, you're angry, etc. It's like, why don't you just ask what my intention was instead of assuming it?
Yeah.
That's usually what they do. There's a big projection from usually that side, and it's always about emotional, and it's always about a reaction. But on my post, we go, oh, you just sound so angry. I'm like, actually, it's humor. I was making a joke. And people, it can't go past their entire internal kaleidoscope of trauma and programming through this political division that they have there, which most of them don't even know that they have there.
No, that's actually a very valid point. I would class myself in that group until I started doing some actual research around this. Had no idea that I was being programmed with certain political beliefs.
Yep.
And until those political beliefs were really detrimental to my family, my health, and everything going on around me. So, unfortunately, sometimes it takes that to wake up, maybe worse.
Yeah, I mean, we've all had our own journey to do so. But it's usually the people that want to make men accountable for everything that don't take accountability for anything. And blame is just it's a victim stance. I had a woman send me it was a little while, I can't remember what it was in response to. Anyway, she said, well, I agree with you on a lot, but witches did get burned in the 1600s. I said, is that how far you have to fucking go back to prove your point? Are you going to blame a 10-year-old German boy for what Hitler did? Like, grow up. Come on. Like, let's deal with the now instead of going back. I don't even know what year that was, and that should never happen, but you can't use that as a stance now for something you never experienced.
Yeah, and is not how we're living
exactly
today.
Not at all.
Happen.
Not even close.
No, people are celebrating the witches.
Yeah, it's propagated.
100%. It is. It's interesting to see that people can't actually slide it into what we're currently experiencing.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it comes from like this fear that the Andrew Tates of the world are just going to take it away. Like it's all going to be removed from us if we don't hold on to it with our teeth and nails.
There's enough to go around for everyone. There's more money, there's more abundance, there's more opportunity. Clawing over someone to get there is not a noble pursuit. Lift people up. All boats rise with the tide. I don't know why we're not celebrating people. I really don't get it. I love women. I'm a proponent of women. I love my woman a lot. We're 100-100, not 50-50. I take care of her. I do all the finances. I pay for everything. We'll get married early next year. This is the route that we're going down. Her health is thriving. You can tell how well the quality of a relationship with a woman, you can tell by how well she's looked after because of her health. Her friends every week say, you look so radiant, you're so healthy. There's so many indicators of her health that was really bad before we got together because she was in a toxic relationship with a guy that shattered her. And then she got with me and then her cycle started to get back to normal. I don't want to go into too much. I've explained it before, but we try to keep things a little more private now. Her health is thriving because I take care of her and she takes care of me. And who is it for anyone to say that that's bad?
Can we go into that a little deeper, actually? Because it was one of the things that was a bit of an aha moment for me, where when you start looking at traditional gender roles, which personally I totally irked me. That conversation would have irked me so much, 5 years ago. But now looking at where I am with the number of children I have, trying to achieve a 50-50 situation at home wouldn't be near impossible, because the load bearing on me for the children is a lot higher than for my husband, purely because of our biology. So when I started looking at what is supportive of female hormones, what is supportive of male hormones, and traditional gender roles started to make a little bit more sense. Could you explain to my audience about that?
It's pretty simple. Man protects and provides, and the woman nurtures and nourishes. That's really it. So being out in the world, being active, so there's active and passive states of our programming. So if we move towards something that's more active, that is more masculine. Being more passive, and it doesn't, the fact that we're in a society now where I have to preface and define something because everyone's so fragile about words, it's passive, so it's more receptive. Active is more dynamic. They're just words. So, and I'm sure your audience is probably, pretty resilient with it, but most of the time people they fly off the handle because of words. Like, we're in a culture that is so fragile and so childlike and so weak that you can't even write a post without someone losing it. I commented on one of my posts the other day. A woman was getting real up about it. I said, they're just words on a screen, sweetheart. Relax. Life's not that serious. Like, calm down. So there's an active and a passive state to it. The masculine and the male biology is just built differently. The female biology is just built differently. I can't believe we're in a time where we even need to argue that. I mean, it's it's becoming almost parody for me, seeing accounts where they're doing teardown. Like, I did a thing on man keeping the other day. It's this new term that feminists have developed where the emotional labor of supporting their husband should be paid. And
sorry, can you explain that?
It's called man keeping.
Okay.
And it was from this unhinged video this woman did, and then Vice did an article about it where feminists are complaining about the unpaid emotional labor they have to support their husband. That's it.
Okay, so I've got a couple of questions. Aren't we encouraging men to be more emotional? Like, don't we want them to be more emotional?
Exactly. Be vulnerable, be open. I want you to be emotionally available. Oh, but now it's unpaid labor. Like, the gaslight is real. I just tell men now, I'm like, just don't listen to that stuff. It's just becoming so absurd and ridiculous that it's becoming parody. That I wrote a post about it, and in one of the warning signs, I said, just get a goldfish. It's easier to deal with. And they won't talk back and won't roll their eyes at you. It was complete parody, and there were women in the comments so offended by it. And not one of them actually said, you know what? Man-keeping is a pretty horrible term. They were just going, feminism this and feminism that, and, I don't think you understand feminism. I'm like, this was all a joke? It was just a parody. I've got to, I'm pretty playful and I'm a bit of a smarter, so sometimes I like to just dig a little and be a bit funny about it. But they're so fragile that they couldn't even read the post, and they went to automatically defending their position instead of going, yeah, you know what? The same people that are asking men to be vulnerable and emotional are now saying this is emotional labor I don't want to take on. And I said, okay, cool. Well, how about the police don't show up when you need them? How about the firefighters don't show up when you need them? How about the infrastructure managers don't show up truck drivers? Why don't we just stop delivering food? This idea that we don't need men. We need women. Everyone is born of a woman. Like, no one would be here without them. So I have such respect for mothers and the birthing process. I'm learning about it now as we move into starting to have a child. I'm amazed by it. I think it's absolutely beautiful. I think it's incredible, and I think it's sacred. But let's not get it twisted that we don't need men. You got to do is, for the people out there, go into ChatGPT and say, what would happen as an outcome of all men stopping all dangerous jobs in the world in the first 12 months? And there are jobs that women just can't do. There are jobs that men can't do that women can. And there are jobs that men can do that women just can't. Like, go be an underwater oil rig repairer. Good luck. It's not going to work for you. There's
going to be a woman out there that's like, I'll do it.
Yeah, cool. Like, go and try and then see what happens.
Yeah.
I don't understand why we can't just say, there's things that I can't do that you can do. And I honor that. And I think that's great. And I think that's beautiful. And I think it's sacred. And men are designed to do the harder jobs on the planet. And so we've gotten to a place where society thinks that they don't need men. Well, go put 100 women on an island and see how long they last. There was a thing on Survivor. They did the male versus female, and the males had shelter, food, everything else sorted within a very short period of time. They were winning all the competitions and the women were losing. So the women, because they couldn't beat the men, started to seduce in certain ways the lower status males. So then they brought the males to their side. And then the lower status males voted out the higher status males, the more capable and stronger ones. Then the women voted out the lower status males and won the competition.
Why? Why did they do that? That's like, it's literally bringing out the worst aspects of like. Actually, that is a really beautiful representation of what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Like this is what's happening in society. This is what's unfolding.
Yep.
And I think the most heartbreaking part of it for me and for a lot of other mothers and I don't know, other women who are like, I love my husband or my brother or my father, my sons, like to just completely I want to say disvalue, but like it's so much worse.
Total
than
devaluation.
Yeah, the men in our lives and how important a man's role is, and I mean, the information coming out now on the importance of a father's role in a child's life. Like, remove all the fathers and see how poor the outcomes are of those children. Like, we're
seeing it.
Yeah, exactly. We're seeing it play out, and it's because women can't be fathers. Like. Sorry, you will never be a father. And children need their fathers. And actually women need the support of men when they're going through those early phases of motherhood. Like I won't get up on my high horse about it.
Please do. We need more women to do that.
Well, it's just...
It's disgusting.
The mental gymnastics you have to do to be blinded to the fact that we need men in society, and also blinded to the fact that men and women work so well together when we're raising each other up that like a society is quite literally invincible if we can do that. A relationship is invincible if the two people in that relationship are lifting each other up and have each other's back. Like, and yeah, the world at large would be the same. But here we are. I think we're learning the hard way. Where we're at is learning the hard way.
It's that hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times create weak men create hard times. We're in hard times right now because weak men have created it.
Yes.
That's the thing. And the nature of that you said, and I've said this before, and it's just what it is, that women have gotten so comfortable they can say that they don't need men. But the world would shut down overnight without us. It would. It really would. And the chaos that would ensue, the lines that would shut down. I've had people say, I hate this narrative. What's his name? Someone made a reel about me. Will Hitchens, that's it. He's on the Gold Coast. He does he just tears down men. That's it. Yeah, it is. And I said in one of my reels, I said, you don't hear men saying, I'm a strong, independent man that don't need a woman. And he's like, I hate this narrative. And it's like, but it's true, because the world would shut down without men overnight. Not with men like that, but with,
There's certain men though.
Certain men that it will.
There's also certain women. Look, there's no, we're not discriminating here.
Well, it's, and this is the teardown culture. He's in teardown culture, that guy. And if you need validation by tearing other people down, I feel sorry for them. And I've had women send me reels that he's made about me and say he's a mess and he just doesn't want to work. That's it. So he becomes a performative ally. Performative allies are the most dangerous men out there. They take on the plight of women. They support women. They tell women they're right about everything and men are bad, so they can sleep with them and they don't have to provide for them. A couple of women said, he literally said, I don't want to get a job. So I'm saying you should provide. So of course he's going to wrap it up under some false guise that I care about women, when he doesn't. He cares about his own position because he doesn't want to work.
And that is a very feminine energy.
It's childish.
It is.
It's like a child.
And I think going back to Patricia Allen's work, it's what does she call it? Peter Pan syndrome.
Yeah, 100%.
Where you just never want to grow up. And I think that's something that's probably plaguing society at the moment. And I feel like is a massive slap in the face for people when they do become parents and all of a sudden you have to take on responsibilities. Whereas before that time, you can go around without any responsibilities.
Yeah.
And life is very sweet. Actually, Louise Perry, someone who I bring up much too often on this podcast, in her book, she talks about historically we actually never had as much freedom as what we have today. So like as a child you're dependent and so therefore do not have freedom. And then there would be this really small window of when you would be not a dependent anymore and not have dependence. And it was very short-lived, and that was your bracket of freedom. And then all of a sudden you had dependence and you had responsibilities, and even children used to have responsibilities, not so much anymore. But and then you grow into a dependent again. And I thought that was so interesting because we've got this extended freedom period now, and it's encouraged. But what I personally see happening is that people put off having responsibilities for so long that then they can't actually imagine having responsibilities. And once they do, it's unfair and it's unequal, and we get really angry about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I really wanted to go into men's mental health because this is something that doesn't get nearly enough airtime at all. And I was having a quick look at the statistics around suicide because this is something that Laura Henshaw had brought up, that this pressure of provider role on men is increasing poor mental health outcomes in men and therefore increasing suicide rates. And I think I've got the number here. So 2023, 2,500 men died of suicide. The main pocket of that was ages 40 to 59.
Is that in Australia?
In Australia, yeah. So I wanted to go into, are the pressures of provider role too great in this current climate?
No. I think there was Richard Reeves, who's the head of Institute for Boys and Men in America. And I mean, look, again, I don't want to soundbite Laura over one thing, but it's very convenient to take the men out as wanting to be providers because that creates less competition for her. You know, the boss babes and very driven, high-performing males. It's very easy if you say the very attributes that makes a high-performing male, competitiveness, aggressiveness, dominance, you start to say that that's toxic. Well, she'll adopt those attributes and be celebrated for it. If you take men out of the equation, what's left? Much more for her and people like that. So it's very convenient to say that the pressures of providing are killing men, and it's actually not. In the examination Richard Reeves did, the two most common words in a suicide note were "I'm useless" and "I'm worthless." Useless and worthless. So if I'm toxic, I'm a misogynist, I hate women, I'm whatever list. I mean, if I had $1 for every insult a woman threw at me, I'd be a multi-millionaire probably by now. But it's, for some men, sure, she's probably right. That might be overwhelming. The protector provider role is not for every man. I don't believe it's for every man. I don't talk to them about that. There are some men that can't do it, that don't want to do it. And you know what? Will, have at it. But just fucking admit that that's what you want. Just be man enough to say, I don't want to work. I can't handle the pressure. It's too hard for me. Instead of tearing down other men to do that, which is the worst kind of man. I know that he suffers from suicidal ideation and mental health issues, which I feel for him. And I hope he gets the support that he needs and the healing that he needs. So I don't want other men going through that, but don't try to tear other men down while you're doing it. And saying that the pressure to do so is the reason men that are killing themselves. It's there'd be some truth, but it's very easy to wrap up a little bit of truth and globalize the position as that's it. Every man I know that provides thrives in it. So it's not for every man, and that's okay. It's just not for every man, and that's why not every man will have children either. Nature has one directive, and that's continuity, and it will pick the strongest to survive.
Yeah, I actually listened to a Diary of a CEO podcast recently with Dr. K. I hope I didn't get that wrong. It was actually on addiction, but he spoke about the current birth rate crisis. I don't know if you're...
Yeah, 1.3 I think it's at globally or in the West.
Yeah, well, in Australia it's 1.5 I think currently, but we're just globally we're nowhere near replacement levels. And he talks about incels and the number of incels growing because men do need a woman to be able to procreate. And lots of women are now saying that they're never going to have children, or when women do put their career first, often you find that it's then harder for them to have children because they're missing their window of opportunity. But in that, he was talking about this mass die-off. Like there is going to be this huge die-off. And for men that he has spoken to, the idea that they will never have any part of them that lives on is like soul-crushing.
Yeah.
And that hit really hard for me because it's like, well, yeah, that gives you purpose. Like this, to look after your own children gives you that drive, gives you purpose. And I mean, you look at the statistics of men who are married versus not married, they're making much more money because it does give that purpose and drive. So, I mean, there's statistics as well that would support that provider role of actually having positive influence on a lot of men. But again, let's don't want to look at that.
Yeah, and it's hard when that happens because as you get older, and I get, not every week, I was getting it for a long time, multiple women a week in their 40s, devastated because they don't have children. And now because they're a little older, they're not as popular as they were when they're in their 20s and not as fertile, and it's difficult. The grief that I've worked with women with and spoken to, the devastation is just all they want is a man to look after them and provide for them so they can have kids. And I think this is, with an aging population, it's going to get pretty rough in the next 20 to 30 years. But I think Gen Z is coming through with it. We see a lot of people moving back towards traditional values in Gen Z. You know, it's a real thing that they're moving back towards. And that is a symptom of our biology being determined by something that is deep within us. And I think men and women need each other. We need each other. We're meant to be together. And if that means you want to be a boss babe with a stay-at-home dad, I fully support that. I fully support Laura's ability to be as successful as she wants. I don't want to take anything from her. I'll get my own through my own message and doing my own. I really think this teardown culture, she's got a big platform and a big following, and she had such a great opportunity to unify with Chris when all that happened, but instead she went the other role to tear him down, and then she's just continued to do that. And I think if you're putting people in a position of leadership and listening to that, she's obviously a very smart woman, very successful, and I've said this in other podcasts, that she just had such a great opportunity to unify, and because she's younger, they both had a really amazing opportunity to unify and say, hey, we're different. Modern women and traditional men can meet eye to eye and say, you know, okay, cool. But instead she took the approach of, I'm going to call Chris in and you're going to listen to me and we're going to sit down and school you because you don't know any better. Instead of saying, you know what, the best thing I can do is be a good person and prove that my position works for me, and I can also allow you the space to be whoever you need to be. That's the position I come from. I don't want anyone to stop what they're doing from that perspective. Give them all the runway they need. But if you're stepping over people to get there, it's like the Ouroboros, the snake that eats its own tail. And even in the reel that she did the other day, her followers are slightly starting to turn on her because she called out a guy that does a lot of good work, and her followers were saying, you've missed this one. This is bad. This isn't accurate. And it's starting. When you operate like that, it will start to work against you. If you tear down other people, if you only have reaction video accounts, that will come back to you. When I was talking about Will a little earlier, someone sent me a reel that he did about me, and I just quietly, I was in Fiji, I sat on the beach and I wished him health, and I hope that he gets through it. 4 hours later, someone else sent me a story saying, my mental health's not good, I think I want to kill myself. Like, that's sad.
Yeah.
Stop involving yourself in so much negativity everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, like it creates disastrous outcomes. And one of the things I wrote years ago, which still resonates with me today, if you harvest seeds of hate, you'll sow your own destruction. And that's what these people, that's what's going to happen. And it will come back and bite them super hard. All the people that tear others down, it will happen. Life will just will correct course because we're not supposed to do that.
Yeah. And I think destruction is like the perfect word for what we're seeing play out in society. and I don't know where you sit on that, but some
It's the
people are
worst
like,
it's ever been.
let it happen because it's going to, course correct. Or some people like, slow it down because we're not ready for the potential outcomes of that. Heavy. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
All right.
destruction precedes creation. In every burn down, every loss of civilization, it's always a renewal process at the same time. Just depends on the way you look at it, which is why when I see people tearing others down, I just go, have it, man. Like, if your life's that sad, that's what you got to do. You're just going to tear yourself down from the inside out, because what you hate about others is only the thing you hate about yourself, and life's going to draw that out of you like poison from a wound, and it's going to be very painful, and you will destroy yourself in the process.
Domestic violence. I'm pretty sure the statistics still stand at 2 women a week in Australia are murdered by their partner or spouse or a live-in man. Domestic violence was something that was brought up and repeated. So can we talk about how the message of traditional masculinity does or does not tie into domestic violence?
So it's not a big subject that I've looked into too much. There's a great account called The Tin Men. He's a guy in the UK that breaks down all of the statistics on that. So I don't think it matters if you're traditional masculine or if you're modern. If you're going to do that, you're going to do it anyway. There's something underneath it. One of the things that was really fascinating that I saw on The Tin Men, that the actual statistics about domestic violence, I don't know about the murder rate, but it depends where you look at it. If you look at statistics, I think of a child under 5, the mother's the most likely to kill the child. The statistics are higher with that. If you look at the national incident standards, I think it is in America, childwelfare.org, mothers are the biggest abusers of children by twice as much as the man, as the father. So mothers operating alone are the biggest perpetrators of child abuse. I mean, that doesn't really get said. And this isn't to tear down, but we got to look at statistics from really the source. Andrew Wilson, he's a good debater online. He talks about this. It's something that I found a while ago. And anyway, the Tin Men account, I'm just trying to remember, but it had the actual breakdown of the violence statistics, and it was 50.4% man to woman, 49.6% was woman towards the man in DV, intimate partner violence. I can't remember the source of this, but the highest rate of domestic violence in any couple is lesbian couples. The lowest rate is in gay couples. Yeah, I know. It's crazy, right? Highest rate.
That is really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, let's not talk about statistics and facts because we don't want to do that. But it's also like the financial abuse statistics that they do. That's self-reported. Self-reporting is a massive issue. It creates so many statistical anomalies. And Deloitte did another one with Commonwealth Bank and that's Laura's thing, and that's fine. I think her dad left her mum in a bad state. The thing that she can't see is that I'm trying to turn men into people that her father wasn't, but she's trying to tear me down. I shouldn't say she's tearing me down. She said one thing about me, that was it. So I don't want to over-sensationalize it, but where she's going with masculinity around the anti-provider, I'm trying to make sure men step into that role so what happened to her as a little girl doesn't happen anymore. If she could just see that, I'd be really grateful that she could see that my intention is pure. Not that I need her to see it, but she's an archetype and a representation of a much broader structure. Men, when they're in that position, are thriving, they're happy, they're healthy, they've got responsibility, self-sacrifice like the mother, as you said. There's not a very big difference between the provider role when you have children as a mother versus the man in every other way. So with the stats here in Australia, I don't know. I do see, I think that's terrible. I don't think it should happen at all. But when we look at deeper statistics and we want to be really fair with it, it's a hard thing to look at because what we're told is not always, the narrative is not always in line with the truth.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if there are any statistics on this or if you would know, but what is the percentage of like traditional households versus non-traditional in terms of financial income, in terms of caring for children and that, so on and so forth? Like, do you know what those statistics would be in Australia?
I don't.
Because the family structures that I see, like most of these family structures are very modern. Like there aren't as many traditional family structures.
Yeah, it's rarer.
Yeah.
It's rarer than it isn't now.
And so, our domestic violence rates or the rates of fatalities for women hasn't changed, I think, for a really long time. But the family structures still have. So,
So the 1 in 3 thing you're talking about? The 1 in 3 murder rate, is that what you're talking about?
Oh, I think 2 a week.
2 a week.
Yeah.
Sorry, 2 a week. I think, but if you look at that from 2 a week versus population growth, the statistic would be lower now than it would have been 50 years ago, much lower. If you look at the population of everything, it's still not okay. It's not. But if we look at ratios or the actual statistics, it becomes a different argument. So I actually think we're in a safer world than we were if we look at it from if it's an actual number like that versus a percentage, none of it's okay.
No.
It shouldn't happen at all.
And if we're talking about bad eggs, which we can still be for men and recognize the importance and value they place in society and know that there are still going to be a number of men who are bad eggs and terrible people.
Yeah. A terrible person is not gender specific.
Exactly. I think where I have a vested interest in this topic mainly because I have 2 sons and I'm in a relationship. So obviously there is a lot of information that I want to be able to impart onto my children. But for my boys to grow up in a world that is just outwardly hating men, this is something that is not okay by any standard. And also I think that the messages that men and young boys are receiving is so confusing. And I know this has been said multiple times, but it's like, okay, well, we want, you need to let women rise to the top, but then they're pregnant and they're going crazy because their hormones are actually interfering with that rising to the top. And I would love some woman to come up to me right now and be like, oh no, it doesn't. Like, it does. It does. And then we need men to step into that provider role, but this whole time we've told them absolutely not, because that's taking away from raising women. So my question is, after that little rant, how do we foster healthy masculine leadership and role modeling for our boys growing up? What kind of values do we want to impart on them?
It's a good point. There's so much in that what you said.
Yep, sorry.
No, it's okay. It's
I ranted.
a lot of really important things. If you look at the devouring mother, we live in a cultural devouring mother. It wants to destroy the potential of masculinity. It wants to destroy the potential of men by turning them into women. It wants to make them adopt more of the feminine traits, so they become more passive, more submissive. This isn't a judgment on it, it's just a logical fact. And when you look at a devouring mother in a home, this is why I can see it in society, because I grew up like this. Now, if you look at calling a child, you're never going to be enough, or you're toxic, or you're an abuser, you're a rapist, you're a murderer, that's a form of psychological abuse. That's what a cult does. A cult breaks a child's and a human being's ability to be self-referential. It brainwashes them. That's what's happening. These people that are engaging this are child abusers. If you're saying boys are inherently toxic just because they're masculine, you're a child abuser. It's inherent child abuse. Imagine if we were saying to a little girl, you're a slut or you're a whore or whatever. It's the same thing. And can you imagine the uproar about that? But we'll call boys toxic. It doesn't matter. Are there toxic traits and unhealthy traits? Yeah, there is in every single human being. But this is an all-out attack on innocent people, innocent children. 8, 10 years old, having to be sat down in the classroom and said, right, now what we have to do is make sure you don't don't become a domestic violence abuser, or you don't become a rapist or a killer. Abby Chatfield's big on that. Like, oh, they're just raping and killing us, etc. You know, it's how do people like this get such a huge platform? It's controversy. And so it's tear down culture, and it's not a blanket statement. You know, I've had conversations with women, and some of them comment on my stuff, you know, men are rapists. I said, not all men. I've been sexually assaulted before by women. Happened to me last year in Italy. I was saying no to a woman 4 times. And I said, if I'd done this to you, it's only because I'm physically stronger that it didn't happen. But she would not listen. And I kept saying no. And I had to physically remove her off me. You could call that an attempted rape. Do you think that Italian police would take me seriously if I said that? No way. Do you think anyone would take me and say, oh, yeah, she just wanted to have sex with you, lighten up, mate? It's like, no is no matter, regardless of the gender. But it's not taken seriously. So that's happened to me a number of times in my life. So where do I stand on that? Where do I live with that and say, oh, no, it's just men doing that? You know, even in the UK, the Tin Men did a great job of this. I believe the legislation actually says rape can only happen through penetration of male genitalia. So a woman can't actually rape a man legally. You want to talk about equality? Let's start getting some of this stuff equal, you know, and it's...
But I'm going to push back a little bit, because do you think it is equal? Like, do you think that obviously there are those out there that want to make this an equal thing, and I know that's who you're speaking to, but do you believe that a woman making advances on a man has the same... has the same potential for disaster, I guess, as a man making advances on a woman?
It depends on where you stop. If the woman's like, no, get off me, and he backs off, and the woman does that to the man, what's the difference? Yeah. You know, if there's violent force, that's different. If it goes all the way, sure, there's a different outcome with that. That's not what I'm speaking to. Speaking to the attempted coercion without respect for the person saying no. If I'd done it, I said it to her, I go, if I'd done this, you could get me arrested. It's so when we draw the line there, if we want to have the equality, there are men that will go ahead with it out of afraid to say no to the woman, just as the woman does that with the man. Neither is okay. And the end results of that, I've worked with men that have experienced that. You know, it has a psychological impact, and it shouldn't be dismissed, but it will be. You know, it will be, because we're the stronger force. We've got a stronger body than women, and it's terrible that it happens. It's happened to me multiple times. You know what I mean? So it's, where does it draw the line? Where do you draw the line with that? But if you want equality, then everyone should be under the same thing equally, regardless of force. Yeah. You know, that's where I have the issue with it.
It's so interesting, because like as a mother, I've got 3 daughters and 2 sons, and I am very, like, at the moment, all my kids we're in holiday mode. There's a lot of fighting amongst them. But when the boys fight, I let it play out, because they'll give what each other needs, kind of thing. And they'll be able to call it. I don't know. I feel like it's an even playing field. When one of the boys starts hitting the girls, I'm like in there straight away.
Good.
And then if one of the girls hits the boys, I'm kind of like, which I know I shouldn't be. But is that an inherent thing? I don't know. I just know that my boys, even being smaller than like my oldest daughter, have a lot, like they can come down a lot harder and have a lot less inhibition when it comes to using their body to create whatever disaster they want to create. And so, I mean, there are these inherent things where even as you were speaking, I'm like, I can see exactly the social narrative that would play out around both those 2 scenarios. And for me, it comes back to, okay, well, is it because like physically a man, I would expect, could remove himself from that situation a lot easier than a woman could remove herself from that situation. Yeah. And so like when I'm raising my boys and girls, I do raise them differently. I'm like, hey boys, like, no, you cannot hit girls. Like that is absolutely not okay. And I'm glad you're practicing with your sister so I can pull you up. It's not like some girl in yard at school. But yeah, and obviously my girls are not allowed to hit either. But I'm a lot stronger with it with my boys because societally the repercussions of them going out and hitting a girl in public is a lot. Oh God, that sounded terrible. I'm propagating domestic violence, but like, you know what I mean? if they go out and they're hitting girls at school, like that is not going to be okay. If they think it's okay to do it, and like later in life they think they can just throw a tantrum out when they're at the pub and either intentionally or not hit a girl, like that's absolutely not okay.
Yeah.
Whereas like if it was my girls out at the pub, which I kind of hope neither of my children none of my children go into that situation, but it's a whole lot of a different scenario that plays out.
Okay, so it's a really interesting point because the American Psychological Association in 2019 said traditional masculine traits are harmful. One of those was aggression. Now, based on just what you're saying, that it's okay to use aggression if you're a girl, but not if you're a boy, right? If you're out, and sometimes it's required. Aggression is required. Aggression is required to defend yourself. Boy or girl, it shouldn't be either different. If someone is physically harming you, yes, the man could be stronger, but we look at the current state of men. Men are scared of women these days. I speak to men every week and they're scared of fake sexual harassment charges, fake domestic violence accusations. All it takes is one, and then that man's reputation is destroyed. I was looking at statistics a while ago about false allegations, and I think 12% are found to be completely fake rape allegations. And I don't know if it was domestic violence and rape, I can't remember. But I believe it was less than 0.1% were followed up for false accusation after that. When you think about it, that woman should go to jail for the same amount of time that the man would have gone. If he gets found not guilty and it's fake, she should go to prison for 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
100%. We're talking about equality here.
Yeah.
Let's treat women the same as men get treated.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be a different world overnight.
I know. And, assuming that the legal system could actually pick out what is what, that I would be 100% on board with that.
Boys need masculine structure. It's the way nature created us. The problem we have in society today is that political narratives are saying that our biology is outdated. And I mean, your expression, my expression, it kind of answers that. You can believe whatever you want about yourself. Whatever you want to identify with. If I could give less than a fuck about that, I would. I literally don't care. Do whatever you want. But to argue with nature, you can't argue with the force that created you. You can't. I mean, the sort of mental gymnastics that you've got to backflip into and like contort your mental state into a pretzel to try to get your head around that. For me, it's just completely illogical. Yeah. And so boys need masculine figures. The biggest issue for boys is an overexposure to feminine energy, overexposure, not normal exposure, overexposure. And that's where the devouring mother comes back in. So the boy will start to seek masculine programming pretty early, 5 to 7. But because we don't split from the mother anymore, like that splitting needs to occur. It doesn't mean exile. It doesn't mean cutting them off. It doesn't mean that you're not in his role, in his life as the role of his mother. You'll always be your son's mother. It just means that the father needs to take on some of the structure in order to produce a healthy exposure to both. Both parents are needed. Both feminine and masculine energy and male, female biology is absolutely required. Nature doesn't produce anything it doesn't need. And that's if men weren't needed, we'd be wiped out. Until we wipe ourselves out, because human beings seem to have a very seductive propensity to destroy ourselves for some reason, to the point of extinction. Yeah,
it's really interesting because we do live in such a cushy time in terms of like history. I know lots of people are struggling with things. Yes, but in terms of history, we live in quite a cushy time. And we can't sit here and just be like, this is pretty sweet. It's like we need to introduce gender wars and introduce breakdown of all these different structures where, some of it perhaps is needed, but a lot of it was actually there to support our biology and to support us and to help us.
Not even to support, but informed by.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that would be a beautiful positive loop right there.
Yeah. And I mean, nature, in my opinion, seeks harmony and balance. And when it gets destructive, it's because there's an imbalance. You look at it in our own lives, some of the hardest things I've been through was during a creative process of destruction where part of me needed to be left behind. I couldn't evolve to the next level if I didn't go through a very difficult part of leaving something behind. So if we look at it from the low birth rates, the people that don't want to procreate are just going to get left behind. There's going to be an obscenely large aging population. Then we're going to have our children and we'll be in our families, and people are unfortunately going to die alone and old and really struggle with that. And they'll just get wiped out. They just won't continue. It's just kind of a matter of fact. Nature's pretty brutal, but it's precise in its attempt for harmony. And so I think what's happening with the collective evolution of the psyche, these people that don't want to have kids or that hate gender or hate all the traditional roles, hey, cool, man, cool. That's going to take you to your grave. And you won't have kids, and then the world will move back to order once you're gone. It's just how nature's going to balance it out. I don't see it as a judgment or a negative or a positive thing. Yeah. I just see it as an adaptation to nature.
Yeah. And we're going to be living through it. It's one thing that I do worry slightly about my children and your future children is like, what are they stepping into? Like, what are we leaving them to have to clean up? And it seems like a real mess at the moment. But
I think technology is probably the greatest threat rather than the balance of biology.
Yeah.
That's more my concern. I think there was, I don't know where I read it. I can't remember if it was a study that video games up to a certain age, chronic video game players have the same brain structure or brain damage as something like a 30 or 40-year alcoholic. Yeah, it was something, I can't remember, so I'm not going to quote it, but it's something along those lines. It's like if someone was gaming 6 to 8 hours a day by the time they get to 18, and if someone's listening, please correct me because I'm not saying I'm 100% right, but it was some crazy statistic. It was insane. Yeah, it's the same as a chronic alcoholic as someone that's on the screen all the time. So that's more my concern than anything else is when my children come along, how technically attached are they going to be, technologically attached are they going to be to the phones rather than anything else? That's more my thing. Biology I'm not worried about. It'll course correct. Life will just go, all right, cool, zip, start over, factory reset.
I think I heard a discussion actually with Mary Harrington, and she was talking about how she's not too concerned about technology because as the population declines, so what are we? We're like at the top of a roller coaster and it's just going to start plummeting soon. There's not actually going to be enough people to support and look after the technology to keep it going. That was like her little light at the end of the tunnel. I'm like, oh, I'll just grab that one. That seems quite nice.
Well, unless we get robotics and AI to take over the roles of humans to manage the technology.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, that's a someday thing, and someday is a psychological illusion. The lights might go off tomorrow for all of us, and then what are we worrying about? So I think the best thing to do is live in life with harmony for what works for you. Treat other people well. And I mean, look, I've hurt people in my history, which is why I try not to do it this day. It's why I don't engage in tear down culture. I don't engage in making reels about people. I try to help people as much as possible. I've been called a masculine grifter and the Timu Tate or something like that, which is actually pretty funny. Timu is like where you get all the dodgy appliances and stuff. Yeah. So it's like a cheap version, like a rip-off version or something. So,
people are quite creative, aren't they?
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Yeah, like go do something good. Yeah. So, I mean, there's some funny stuff. And even that Will dude, like some of the reels he makes are pretty funny.
Yeah.
I'll give that to him. It's like, go be a comedian, dude. You make way more money. You're good at it. Like instead of tearing others down, do it for something positive. Turn your tragedy into a triumph and make humor of your humiliation and sort your shame out. But this is why now, like I help a lot of people. One thing, someone asked me about it the other day that I was working with one-on-one, and they said, doesn't it bother you? And I said, no, because I got such a huge backlog of results Results are what matters. I get shredded by some people because I don't have a psychology degree. I'm like, I don't claim to be a psychologist. It's not going to work for me being in that. And I'm certainly not going to operate in an industry that thinks what I stand for is harmful. I mean, I'm used to a lot of suffering and I've done jiu-jitsu and I'm covered in tattoos. I can handle suffering, but putting myself into that's just dumb, you know, and there's nowhere out there that teaches what I do. You know, I'm all about language and subconscious programming. I've looked for courses, and if that means that I've got to go to a course in it that they'll somehow be satisfied with, I'll do it just to piss them off. You know, I don't mind doing that. But it's like if you're coming from that angle, I literally don't care about what you say about that because results are what matters to me. And I can stand on a very long, solid track record. That's all that I care about. And in 10 years, it's going to be the same. And in 20 and 30, and when I check out of this place, I can sit back and go, yeah, that's cool. I know I did what I did to help other people. And just if we all just started helping one another, it would just be such a much more beautiful place. But people are they're so traumatized and childlike and selfish and narcissistic that the only thing they can do is go, no, I'm going to tear you down. It's tall poppy syndrome as well. And now, you know, a year or two ago, this wasn't really happening so much. Even a year ago, there was still, social media was a decent landscape. And in the last 12 months, it's turned into a cesspool. It's like all the creatures from the swamp are coming out that have something to say. And it's just, I'm starting to move away from Instagram because of that reason.
Yeah, just as I'm like starting to get into it. I had like a massive hiatus of social media and then wanted to start a podcast, and turns out you need to use social media for that. So back in it, and yeah, I've dipping my toe into the swamp.
Yeah.
It's an interesting place.
Are you using Instagram or Facebook, or what's your platform?
Instagram.
Yeah.
Instagram. I'm hoping to get onto X and TikTok, but I feel like a bit of a dinosaur and don't really know how these things work because, I think there's a lot of development over the time that I was away from it. So anyway.
Yeah, I'm going to be moving more to Substack to start doing more writing. It just seems it's a cleaner arena in there. It's nicer. People are more respectful. I think that's where the adults start to go rather than
and long form conversations. That's why I love podcasting.
Yeah, and I think podcasts are great. YouTube's pretty good for it as well. YouTube, I don't know it very well, but it doesn't seem to have that same level of veracity. Most of the time now, if I get a rude comment, I go, man, bots are getting wild these days in their response just to go, I don't know if it's a bot, but most of the comments I reckon are bots these days on Instagram.
I think that this might piss people off, but YouTube is much more male dominated.
Oh, is it?
Maybe that's why it's a little calmer, whereas Instagram is a lot more emotionally driven, probably because it's a lot more female dominated.
Yeah.
So I'll just put that out there. You can do with it what you will. Should we finish on another provocative question?
Sure. No, I'm not Andrew. That was the Andrew Tate.
Do you think that a 1950s relationship is the ideal?
So I see you through the 1950s in there, which is the provocative statement. So look, the 1950s, I don't think we need to go back to that. I do think that there is a harmony that happens when the man is a protector provider and the woman is the homemaker and takes care of the children. What I think is the most important aspect is having choice to do either. I think that's the important part. So Joelle, I pay for her to do courses, whatever she wants. You know, I give her she gets a good life, a really good life, and she'll attest to that. And she's kind of my evidence in it all. That's what I love about this, is that I could talk from a place of intellect, but I'm living it every single day. And we're thriving. We're in a beautiful, harmonious relationship. She's well looked after. She has a brilliant life where we travel multiple times a year. She has whatever she wants. She's starting a course tomorrow that she can do for 10 weeks. And if she wants to do that as a business or a hobby, she can do it. She doesn't need to ask me permission. She does courses in childcare. She writes on Substack. She does whatever she wants. She's not this slave at home. And people go, oh, well, what if you break up? And because we don't have children and we're not married yet, she just goes, I'll be an adult and I'll go get a job. Like she's entitled to everything I've got because we're in a relationship now. Now, when we get married, which we will, that changes the dynamic because she's not taking the risk. I am. I'm the one that's successful and has the cash and the assets and the investments. And if she has when she has our children, she can have half of it if she decides to leave. Because I'm not going to set an example for my child or children that I'm going to take something away because she decided to leave. I don't foresee that happening because we're going into this eyes wide open with everything. But, it's just money. That's all it is. It's just money. Like, if you're that hard up about money, fucking grow up. There's more important things in life. Like, look after the mother of your children. Look after the husband, the father of your children. Look after your husband. Look after your wife. Look after your partner. It's not this, I'm going to get mine, which is make sure. Now there was that superannuation thing that went around. I don't know if that was Laura. Maybe it was. That a man is not a financial plan, right?
Oh, yeah.
Is that one? Was that
I
her?
think that was her, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, we'll pay you super. Well, that's pretty much the definition of a financial plan to me.
Yeah.
So what do you want? You don't want him to be a financial plan, or you do, or you should pay you super? Like, where is it?
Yeah.
And I think that's very much I'm going to get mine kind of attitude. I wonder if she pays her husband super because I bet she makes more than him.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting. I think there's not enough education around what it is to start a family and be in a relationship because when we have two individual people coming together and they continue to be two individual people, you're working side by side. There's always that like a bit of a wall there. And it's like, actually, it is a very, very vulnerable place to be when you need to rely on your partner for finances and they need to rely on you for their children, like to raise their children. When there's the divvying of roles, it is a very, very vulnerable place to be.
Yeah.
But when you're in there, you do actually understand, this works to everyone in this little ecosystem's advantage if I am doing everything I can to make my husband's life good, my children's life good.
Yep.
And my husband is working to the same goals.
Mm-hmm.
And our children a little shit sometimes, but we're trying to show them or at least role model to them what a healthy relationship is, which still involves us trying to figure out what we're doing and changing and different dynamics and introducing new businesses and whatever it is. Where we stumbled our way through it. We did not go into parenthood with our eyes wide open.
Yeah.
It's been a discovery process. But like getting to this place where we're like, okay, actually this is the dynamic that functions best for us and fully supports our children to thrive, which is, again, something in this conversation that gets left by the wayside. Like children, like you talk about, Joelle can just walk away when we have children, like if she chooses to and she gets half of everything. But like, I don't know if you've listened to my podcast at all, but I did speak to Katie Faust and when you center the children as like the forefront of making any of those decisions, unless it's a very dangerous situation, you're harming them by doing so.
Absolutely.
So it's and I think that's something that just isn't ever factored into any of this.
It's a great point. So for context, where I was saying that was about the assumption of risk being on me and her ability to go, I'm out if she wants to. Now she's an incredible woman and she wouldn't do that because she knows it would harm the kids. And I think most people don't take that into account. I've worked with many people and I've had conversations with a lot of people where the woman's like, I was just not happy. So I took my child away instead of going, no, this child comes before me than anything else. And I think that's a really important thing to understand, especially with relationships, because what most people don't get, we live in a culture now which is my needs, my needs, my needs. It's narcissistic. And a lot of the big accounts out there, I've mentioned it a few times, Jillian Turecki, I don't know her account very well, but she's got 1 million or 2 followers and it's all about getting my needs met. It's like my needs, sometimes it's so hard to walk away because my needs weren't met. And fair if that's one aspect to it. But what people miss in relationships is there's the relationship with each other. There's the relationship to the relationship, the we. There's the relationship I have to myself. There's their relationship to me. There's their relationship to themselves. There's their individual relationship to the relationship. And then there's the relationship as a single entity. So it's very dynamic and complex.
Yeah.
And when you start to dictate your relationship with other based on the relationship to yourself, that's where it breaks down. So I'm in a relationship with my own trauma, my own history, my own fears, my own demands, my own concerns, and I'm going to make you responsible for it. And I'm going to use this relationship to make sure that you confirm an aspect of what I lived through in childhood, and then I'm going to make you responsible for it. It's like we hear now that, every woman's ex is a narcissist. Well, that means 2% of the population is dating every fucking woman out there because everyone's ex is a narcissist now. It's same as the misogyny term or toxic masculinity. If everything's misogyny, nothing is. If everyone's a narcissist, no one is, And so these are really important to understand. Where I come from in my relationship with Joelle, our thing is we define our relationship based on one shared value at the top, which is peace. So then there's certain things we don't allow in the relationship. So we never insult each other. We've never yelled at each other. We never swear at each other. We have a conversation about things that are going on and we take responsibility for our own feelings in the moment that goes up. So conflict is minimal. And because peace is our number one thing, we put that ahead of our own needs. We serve each other. I've woken up on days where I've worked all the way through and I'm absolutely shattered and exhausted. And I got to get up and do a session because I got to provide. She thanked me the other day. She goes, you just show up no matter what. I said, I need to take care of you and our family. I've got things to do. I don't get to put my feelings ahead of it. Now, that will be controversial for society because I'll put your feelings first. Excuse the language, but fuck your feelings. Like, can you imagine how many days you didn't want to get up when you had 5 children and not do the thing? I mean, could you imagine if you just folded like a deck chair every single time there was an inconvenient feeling or a stimulus that you needed to respond to and validate? Or deny or make someone else responsible. No, I'm sorry. Life doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. Becoming resilient and capable is an important thing. And the first thing I always teach is full self-responsibility. Full self-responsibility. I am the common theme in my life. Wherever I go, magically my problems are always fucking with me. It's no one else's problems. I get ridiculed online. Maybe I need to take a more articulate, softer stance, instead of being the Timu Tate that people call me, right? Maybe I could do that. Maybe I can adapt to that. Maybe I can start looking things at a different angle. Maybe I could do that. Or maybe I don't. It doesn't matter. But regardless, every word that I say is my responsibility. Every action I take is my responsibility. It's not the feminist's responsibility that they hate masculinity. It's my job to do what I need to do to help people. That's it. And so what I say and how I do it, people can twist and contort and change that all they want. But I'm still going to get up every day and do the same thing. And I'm going to be committed to helping people. And I'm going to be committed to my woman. And I'm going to be committed to being a provider and a father when our children come along and to be an amazing husband for her. My thing is serve her as her thing is to serve me. We serve each other before we serve ourselves. And I think when you come in with that mindset, it's not for everyone, but we thrive in that mindset. We thrive with that. We consider one another. We do beautiful things for one another. We're constantly thinking about how we can help the other. You have this reciprocated relationship where it's built on helping the other. It's just beauty is the byproduct versus I'm going to get mine. Well, it's not going to last very long. It just doesn't work.
It actually opens you up to have a really good day too.
Yeah.
Good week and good life. I like to look at energy consumption and energy expenditure. And you waste a lot of energy with that, like restricted.
Yeah.
I'm going to get mine attitude. Whereas there's a lot less energy involved in propping your partner up and helping and being in service too.
I think it's good too, just on that, I had really severe mold exposure for a couple of years recently. When I moved up here, I started to get it and it was really, really bad, but I still got up and showed up. And it's just, the world's not going to stop for me, so I'm not going to stop for the world. And there are other days where it still affects me some days, where I'll get this immense pressure in my head and my sinuses go off and like my head's buzzing and I can barely string a sentence together, but I open my computer and I get my session done and I hop off. And I'm fine during the session. I just switch on. And Joelle said to me, she goes, I don't know how you do it. I said, because I've got you to look after. So it's putting everything else ahead of me. And like you said about motherhood, that's the ultimate sacrifice. And I think that masculinity is about sacrifice. And I think motherhood is too, and parenthood. And I think when you come from that, when you've got something bigger than yourself to serve, it's just so much more rewarding. Helping others, being a source of assistance and help for others, not to your own detriment where you're wrecking your own body doing it, but just pushing through for an hour to help someone. That's the thing that gives me energy. It sorts me out. And I love that. And I think more people should have that kind of attitude. Not everyone, but for those that are looking to move into it, by all means do it.
I actually feel like that is like the cornerstone for the resurgence of religion.
Yeah.
Like why so many people are looking to religion, because it is just something, you're serving something bigger than yourself, which I think is one of the leading, determinants of health. Anyway.
I think also there's a lot of fucking evil that's been exposed in the world in the last 5 years. So I think people also
go
into that way for salvation.
Religion,
in a
please
way
save
too.
me.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's good, if you've got something else bigger than you.
Yeah.
I think married men are healthier, they live longer, they make more.
Mm.
So I can tell from not being married yet, but soon to be, I'm a healthier, stronger and more vital because of it.
Yeah. All right. Well, Jag, if people want to find you, where can they?
Pure Jaguar on Instagram. I think it's pure_Jaguar on YouTube, and I think it's Pure Jaguar 1 on Substack. I'm really going to be moving more towards Substack.
Yeah.
So that's what I want people to go to.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming in and having this conversation with me.
Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed it.
Thanks for joining me today. If this ignited a flame for you, please share, follow the show, and leave a review. The more support and subscriptions the show gets, the more powerful and credentialed guests I can bring on to deepen these conversations. I appreciate you being here, and I will see you next week.